Hey friends, welcome to the Genius Way Show. I'm your host, Ben Hummel. It's great to have you here for another episode of this show where we talk about everything pertaining to personal development, specifically expressing your genius, your collection of talents, skills, and your life calling. So let's get into it today. Today, our topic is, or the title of the show is, Don't Settle for a Mediocre Life. And what is meant by mediocrity? Well, that's what we're going to get into. And so I just want to start out by asking you a real kind of a simple question. So, out of your week, let's say, how many days of the week do you come home from work or from whatever you're doing and say to yourself, "Wow, that was an amazing day. I got to say everything I wanted to say. I got to express myself. I've got to really put all my effort into something and feel really, really amazing and fulfilled and happy. And wow, what an amazing day that was. I am completely okay." And so I know that when I say it that way, it might sound a little absurd, but if we're not experiencing that on a consistent basis, something is missing. And what's happened is that at some level, we have settled for mediocrity. Now, I'm not talking about difficult life situations. I'm talking about choices that we make for ourselves and not kind of stepping into the thing that really, really makes us interested in being alive. And so, if you're not coming home from work or wherever you are, saying, "That was great. I love it," there are different choices to make, and they're choices about not being mediocre. So what is meant by mediocre? Let me give you a really kind of a cool quote here from Tom Robbins, one of my favorite authors. He's always really funny and sarcastic and kind of nails it. So he talks about mediocrity. One character in his book, half asleep in frog pajamas, and this is the quote. It says, "But why diminish your soul being run of the mill at something? Mediocrity. Now, there's an ugliness for you. Mediocrity is a hairball coughed up on the Persian carpet of creation." So, Tom was really indicating something here. Creation is so huge, so vast, so unbelievably diverse and interesting and individual that when we are settling for mediocrity, we are out of step with that whole rhythm of creation and expansive consciousness and all the things that we see hurtling around us. Everything is in a state of being and of flowering and of evolving and developing. And when we settle for mediocrity, meaning when we settle for something that is less than what our potential is, we're missing a huge part of our life, maybe the most important part of our life. And so, one of the things that happens when we settle for mediocrity, a lot of times mediocrity can be a response to a failure. When we try something and we land flat on our face and it didn't work out and it turned out to not be a good idea at all, we feel really bad. And a lot of times that fear of trying something new again is there in us. And we just kind of say, well, I'm going to just hang back and be safe. I'll do the minimum. I won't stick my neck out too far. I won't try new things. I won't go with that little gut impulse that I have to express something new. I'm just going to kind of stay here and play safe so that I don't get humiliated again like I did before. And so that is not a way to escape mediocrity. So when we are not listening to that little clue that bubbles up as a creative impulse from our genius, when we're not listening to that, what are we listening to? We're like, no, I can't do that. I can't express that thing. I can't write that book. I can't do that TikTok dance. I can't start that business. And when we're not listening to that impulse, we are shutting down probably the most important part of ourselves. And so, taking a cue from life, like existence, you see flowers growing through cracks of sidewalks. You see broken trees falling down and then growing back up out of the ground again. You see all kinds of things where nature doesn't settle for mediocrity. It doesn't settle for status quo. You see original things happening everywhere around you, and we are part of that. It's just in this society, or almost any society, we're kind of trained to go along with the flow of the society instead of listening to our individual uniqueness, which is our genius, and expressing that genius as a natural outpouring of who we are. So that's what's really important here is why not to settle for mediocrity? Because mediocrity is not our natural state. Our natural state is a lot more wild than that. No matter how you think of yourself, whether you think of yourself as an introvert or an extrovert, our natural state is to express. And we need to express what is individually within us. And simply to do that, we have to take chances. We have to take risks. Nothing ever gets done, nothing ever gets accomplished, nothing ever gets explored without some kind of risk. And when you risk, you might lose, you might fail, you might not hit the mark that you're trying to hit. But guaranteed, every time you do, you will learn something. And that's really the whole point of that concept by John Maxwell of failing forward. That idea that I tried something, I had an idea, I tried, and I failed, but along the way, I learned some valuable lessons. Along the way, I learned what not to do. I learned how not to create this project. I learned how not to make a decision in forming a business that didn't work, right? And so failing forward is also part of evolution. A lot of the chains or the links, like let's say in humankind, they went as far as they could and they kind of died off. And then here we are. So the same thing happens when you're expressing your genius. Same thing happens when it's about expressing and listening to that deep creative impulse that you have. It's about how do I have the trust that I can move forward even if I fail and then keep moving. Because all of this is about not being mediocre. So mediocrity is again not being your kind of genuine individual individuated self. Mediocrity is seeing where you fit in somewhere and not expecting too much of yourself, not sticking your neck out, not going beyond anything, just kind of like hanging in there. And that's not why we came here. We didn't come here to just hang in the middle. We came here specifically, each one of us, to express something in particular. And along the way of finding out what that thing is, we have to take some chances, take some risks. We have to stick our neck out. We have to listen to that creative impulse and give it a try. We have to experiment. We have to kind of move in the direction of our creative impulse and see what happens. So I want to show you a little clip here of a movie about this guy who was a famous shoe designer. And he designed some athletic shoes, and he was supposed to be this amazing guy who had the greatest ideas, the greatest designs, and he ended up losing like $1 billion on this one shoe that everybody thought was going to be the greatest. And he's having this emotional crisis right now. So take a look at this scene, and then we'll see you on the other side.
I'm sorry. Oh, I guess I just thought a small part of you might be a small bit sad to see me go. But I guess this is all mostly about a shoe.
Of course I'm sad about you. but this is just a little bit bigger than you and me. And by the way, I didn't say million. I said billion. $1 billion. That's a lot of million.
So you failed.
No, you don't get it.
All right. You really failed. You failed, you failed, you failed. You failed. You failed. You failed, you failed, you failed. You failed, you failed, you failed, you failed, you... You think I care about that? I do understand. You're an artist, man. Your job is to break through barriers, not accept blame and bow and say, thank you, I'm a loser, I'll go away now. Oh, Phil's mean to me, wah, wah, wah. So what?
I don't cry.
You want to be really great? Then have the courage to fail big and stick around. Make them wonder why you're still smiling. That's true greatness to me.
So you can see this character is really, really upset about his failure. And, you know, in order to get to that place where he actually even could fail, he had to stick his neck out. He was a shoe designer. He was the young kind of, entrepreneur. He was this young, talented guy that everybody was projecting had this great future. And he did this one design and nobody wanted to buy it. So everybody lost money. But the other character is saying to him, hey, look, true greatness is about failing really bad and then sticking around, you know? She said, you're an artist. Your job is to fail big, keep going, break through barriers, and fail and stay there and say, okay, here I am. Now what? What's next? So that is the antidote for mediocrity, is being able to take a chance, fail, doesn't matter, keep moving. The only failure we ever have here is if we stop and rest in mediocrity. If we stop our effort to express the genius that we came here to express, that's a failure. If you keep moving, even if you're crawling the next time, even if you take one step or think one thought in the direction of expressing what you came here to express, that's movement. That is not a failure. A failure is stopping and giving up, right? And so here we have, this little clip is such a good example of somebody who sees the other person as a person who is worthy to keep going because they have something really important to express in themselves, and the other person is encouraging. Just like I'm trying to do with you right now. Right now, you may have given up on a lot of your dreams. You may have kind of pushed down some of your creative inclinations. You might have forgotten about things that you were really, really passionate about at one point because they weren't practical, because nobody else believed in you, because nobody else cared enough to help you develop these things. But what I have to say about that is that if you have these creative things in your genius, and everybody does, you have a handful of things in particular that you are meant to express. And like I said last week, if you don't express these things, the world is certainly poorer for it. If you do express them, if you do take a chance and take a risk and fail and get back up, when you do that and you finally express what's in your heart of hearts, at that level of genius, some weird way, and I can't explain it, the world benefits from it, from you being more authentically yourself. Why that is, I do not know. It doesn't matter, but it is a phenomenon that comes with people expressing their genius. People benefit, people around you, or maybe further out in the world, benefit from what you've done. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. And so those giants are the people who have discovered this kind of secret expression that they are needing to put out in the world, and they actually do it And, for most of them, it's not that easy. I'll say it plain and simple. Not being mediocre sometimes is not easy. Mediocrity is pretty damn easy, right? But if you're spending time just being mediocre, you're missing the best part of your life. You're missing the best aspects of your life. And that's what's really important here, is to not miss what we came here to do. That's what genius and all my work around genius is all about. So I want to introduce a new concept to you. Might not be new to you, but it's a good one. And it's about the word eudaimonia. Eudaimonia. And basically, the idea behind eudaimonia is the happiness of your genius, the happiness that comes from expressing your genius. Like what I was saying before, how many days do you come home and you feel, man, I did everything I wanted to do today, and I got good feedback, and I feel really happy and fulfilled? If you're not having that, you're not in a state of eudaimonia. You're not in a state where you're expressing your genius, and that state of fulfillment that comes from doing that is happening. And so if you're not in that, if you're not in a state of eudaimonia, you can be. And it's kind of either eudaimonia or mediocrity. So eudaimonia doesn't mean I have to strive and go crazy and persist and do all these things and strain and struggle. It's not about that. It's just consistently being in touch with the genius level of your awareness, where your creative input is, your creative juice is, and daily expressing that outward, so that when you come home from work or from class or whatever you are saying, wow, this is a good day. I did what I came here to do. I expressed myself. I expressed my individuality. And through that expression, somehow the world is more complete because I did my part. So I want to play you this other short clip. This is from another website that talks about philosophy, and this is about eudaimonia. So check it out.
First, we need to understand a bit more about Aristotle's theory of causation. Aristotle believed everything in reality was working towards a delos. This was an end or a purpose. Everything had a delos, and something was judged as good or bad based on how well it fulfilled its purpose. So, let's take a seed. The delos of a seed is to grow into a beautiful flower. Once it has grown into a flower, it has reached its delos. This is also the case with inanimate objects. If we take a knife, the delos of a knife is to cut. If a knife is able to cut when a human wants it to, then it has reached its delos and it's fulfilling its purpose. If it cannot cut, then it's not fulfilling its purpose and it is a bad knife. Yes, I understand. Now, human beings are exactly the same. We also have a delos. We have a purpose, and this is the same purpose for each and every human. What's that? Aristotle referred to the concept of eudaimonia. This is a type of happiness, pure happiness or bliss, the ultimate goal for being alive, full satisfaction, our fulfillment. Right. Everything we do is to strive towards eudaimonia. Everything we desire is because we believe it will make us happy and bring us closer to eudaimonia, even if we don't know it. If you ask someone, why are you going to work? They may say to earn money. If you ask them, but why do you want to earn money? They may say to pay their rent, or to buy clothes, or to buy food. But then if you ask them, why do you want this? They will say ultimately it is to have a better quality of life and be happy. You can ask someone, why are you going on a date? They may say to find love. You can ask, but why do you want to find love? They may say to get married or to start a family. And why do you want this? Because ultimately it will make you happy.
So you can see that eudaimonia, which is kind of the ultimate happiness of like expressing your genius, means that you are stepping into expressing what you came here to express, which he describes as telos, T-H-E-L-O-S, or T-E-L-O-S. And that's kind of it's not destiny, it's not fate, it's your genius expression. It's your contribution, your blueprint to what you were programmed with to successfully express in this lifetime. And so expressing that you came here with creates that eudaimonia, creates that ultimate happiness, because you are now kind of in harmony with what you have within you, in particular, in an individual way. So even though everyone's goal is eudaimonia, everyone's eudaimonia is brought on by something different. You know, it doesn't matter whether you are gardening or cooking or digging trenches, or it doesn't matter what it is, just as long as it's the thing that individually is important for you to express, right? And so there is no one thing for you to do for your career, for your hobbies, for your schoolwork. There's not one thing to do. There are one or a few things for you in particular that will work to create this eudaimonia. And so as we're talking here, we're going further and further and further away from a life of mediocrity. And that's exactly what we want to do, is to see, what in fact does mediocrity feel like? And, I work with people all the time, and most of them have an aspect of this going on in their list of difficulties that they're working on, their issues, where they've reached a certain plateau and everything's kind of blobbing along like that. If things aren't, they're probably a lot worse than that. And the worst thing to do after you've reached a state of kind of I'm okay is to just stop there. In other words, if you haven't been expressing your genius, you haven't been expressing what's written in the DNA of your beingness, basically, there is going to be something missing, and it will show up, that missingness will show up as mediocrity. And so to get to the place where you are in the eudaimonia, that ultimate happiness, you will have to get to that level of genius, see what's there, pull it up, and start expressing it. And that's the kind of work that I do. So take a look at this book, The Genius Way, Expressing Your Unique Gifts. That has 10 specific life skills in it that help you to get in touch with different aspects of your genius so that you can get a good kind of 360-degree look at how to find what is in my core as far as self-expression. What is it that I have to express that's going to make me ultimately happy as I do it? So again, that book is not going to tell you what yours is. You're going to find out what yours is by doing these different exercises and learning these different life skills. All the material will come up from you. So why don't we take a short break, and then we'll come back with more on this idea of not settling for mediocrity.
Ben Hummel's writing comes from a deep well of experience, practice, and wisdom. The Genius Way teaches you the life skills you need to find your own unique genius. Summoning Genius helps readers to turn a midlife crisis into an opportunity for personal growth. You can find Ben's books on thegeniusway.com, Amazon, and most online booksellers.
And we're back. So one other idea I want to introduce here, along with the rest of the things we've been talking about today, is the idea that life purpose and life fulfillment is real. A lot of times we feel like having a fulfilling life and having something in our lives that feels purposeful is something that only really, really lucky people get. They stumble into it, or they're really smart, or they're a genius, or something like that. But what is important to understand is that life purpose is important for every human being. And living with a sense of fulfillment in our expression of our lives is important. These are real things. These are real needs. These are real aspects of our genius drive. That stored up bunch of energy with which the genius uses to express itself through our life. And so back to the idea of why you don't want to settle for a mediocre life. Okay, so let's look at the etymology of mediocre. And I'm an etymology geek. I really like finding out where words come from. And we can trace this one back to the Greeks. And it's a combination of two words, which is medius, which means the middle. And interestingly enough, ochrus, which means a rugged mountain. So basically what mediocrity means is you are halfway, you're in the middle up this big rugged mountain, okay? Right in the middle. And so what is it when you start to climb a mountain and then you kind of reach the middle and then you stop? So the mountain doesn't necessarily mean your projects or your hopes and dreams. What it means is your life. The top of the mountain represents the culmination of your life, of living a fulfilling life, going to the delos that we talked about before, which is like, what is my point for being here? What is my job to express as a human being? That's the top of the mountain. And so when we're in the middle there, we have stopped in some way. So medius ochrus, the middle of the rugged mountain. And so when we stop somewhere in the middle, that means the rest of our life, the other half of our life, from the middle to the top, hasn't been lived yet. And to settle for mediocrity means to stop in the middle. So you can see that the first half of this life, and we're not talking about years, we're talking about the idea of being in the middle, of being mediocre. The first part, we get our bearings. We get our bearings. We kind of get absorbed into society, and we try to see how to fit in and where we fit in, where we measure up. We compare ourselves to others, and hopefully right in the middle of that rugged mountain, we start to get a little more wise, and we realize it's not about them. It's not about everybody. It's about me. I need to become better at who I am intrinsically. I need to know the value of who I am on my foundational level, which is the level of genius, what I've been kind of predispositioned to be. And so from that point on, your life becomes about, how do I express my genius? How do I first find it? And then how do I express it? How do I get it out? How do I make sure that the song I came here to sing has been sung? How do I leave it all out there on the field or on the stage or in my life? How do I not hold anything back from what I came here to express? So it'd be the same thing as an oak tree, an acorn, getting to the size of basically, a 3-foot sapling and saying, okay, that's enough. That's all I have. And we all know, no, there's a lot more. You've seen some oaks that are huge. And when the oak gets huge, bigger than a sapling, guess what? It drops more acorns around. The animals eat them. Animals make their shelter in the branches. You can even, make our get some shade from underneath the oak tree. I mean, there's so many things that happen when something goes to its fruition, to its delos. And so the same thing happens for every human being. We have a destination to meet with this life. And we can use that example of the medius ochrus and get from the middle to the top of that mountain in terms of self-expression. Okay, so we're going to do a little guided exercise right now. And I want to encourage you guys, if you're watching this program, I want to encourage you to do these exercises every week, because I have them at this time. And every exercise, every guided visualization is meant to help you to mine your internal content, to give you insights into how to express your genius, into what it is specifically for you that is important to express. And that's what these exercises are for. So I hope you take advantage of these and learn something about yourself through some of these exercises. So in this one, we're going to kind of dig into how to to move past mediocrity, how to know when you're in it, and how to know how to flip out of it. And the answers you're going to find are not for me suggesting them. With this visualization, you're going to find your own answers. So let's get into that, and I'll see you after this break. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in, and then deeply exhale. As you open your inner vision, you find yourself on a rugged mountainside. You are standing beside a mountain cabin that has been your home for many years. Take some time to look around and notice your surroundings. As you're taking in the views, you notice a well-worn path leading down the mountain, and you can clearly see many important life experiences from your life up until now that appear along the path. Which landmark life moments do you see? Notice the things that have brought you to this exact spot on the trail up the mountain where you've stopped. And now you notice that there are a pair of binoculars hanging around your neck. You take a look through the binoculars up the mountain to see what else is on this trail. As you focus in on the top of the mountain, you see an image of a goal or dream that you had originally had when you began climbing the mountain before you stopped here in the middle. What is it that you see there? As you're looking at this dream or goal, you notice that a large bird is flying from it towards you. As it reaches where you are, the bird drops something at your feet that is a message especially for you that pertains to your life journey. You pick up this item and hold it in your hands. What has the bird delivered to you? And what does this gift signify to you? What else can you notice about this gift? This gift is now yours to do whatever you want to do with it. The choice is always yours. And now, as you return to this present moment, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return to this room. And so, did you get anything good out of that exercise? Remember, these exercises, these guided visualizations, are to bring content from your own genius access point in yourself and to learn about different aspects of yourself that you can then express. So I hope you pulled something up there. All this material, remember, is not a fantasy. Whatever you bring up from you, there is a reason for that to be coming up. There's a reason that, I set this guided imagery up so that you can pull up something that's important to you today, to use, to express, to go a little further. So let's go a little bit further down this idea of mediocrity and why not to settle for it. So there's a few reasons why mediocrity can even be dangerous. And it's dangerous in this way. So as long as you're here drawing breath, there is expressive work to do. You are the only one of you. And the world needs you as you are in your pure state to be here, to touch the people that you're going to be in touch with, to meet the challenges that you need to meet. All manner of reasons for you until you draw your last breath to be here fully functional as your individual self. So that's one reason to stay away from mediocrity. Another reason is that it's kind of self-evident. If you are still here, there's something for you to express. There is more for you to do. Not in the way of it being, taxing on you or hurtful to you. There's more in terms of there's more fun to have. There's more things to learn about yourself and the world and others. There's more love to give. So if you still have time here, make sure that you're moving past the halfway point, the mediocre point of going up the mountain, because mediocrity is not your destination. The full expression, the top of the mountain, is your destination. The full blooming of who you are as an individual as part of this whole insanely complicated world and universe, that's what we're going for. And again, as long as you're here, that will continue to be important. And all the more important is to stay away from mediocrity. The core of each human being is an existential uniqueness that's meant to continually unfold as long as we live. That being the case, we're given the entirety of this one life to allow that uniqueness to blossom and flourish. On a deep level, we all know this, but when we forget, we dumb down our own potential to live in the land of mediocrity. Luckily, mediocrity is not our true home, and we can know this by the sameness and the lack of surprise that we feel when we're living there. So allow yourself to deeply remember the foundation of your uniqueness that your life is built upon. Feel the fund of potential and possibility for fulfilling life that you were born with. And if you ever find yourself again settling in the wasteland of mediocrity, all you have to do is take one giant creative step forward on your life journey and be happy that you still have time to be a fuller and deeper version of yourself. And that's our show for this week. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to The Genius Way with Ben Hummel. I hope you found something valuable that you can use and practice to keep developing on your life path. Until I see you next week, I want to encourage you to stay curious, be kind to yourself, and remember that your genius has something to say.
Thanks for watching The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel. Make sure to visit thegeniusway.com for the resources you need to help you on your personal life journey. You can contact Ben at ben@thegeniusway.com. And you can follow The Genius Way with Ben Hummel on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for streaming The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel.